Good afternoon, everyone. I think we can start now. And welcome in Athens for this public seminar, tapping into the untapped, the potential of reclaimed and non-potable waters to increase water resilience. My name is Jean-Yves Tenuic. I'm Policy Coordinator at Aqua Publica Europea, the European Association of Public Water Operators. And together with our member EYDAP in Athens, we are very glad to co-host this event. This event is taking place in the framework of the European Union Green Week, and we'd like to thank very much the European Commission for recognizing this event as an official partner event of the EU Green Week for its contribution to the European Commission's water resilience agenda. This event is taking place in a hybrid format. I'm very glad to be here in sunny Athens. We have around 60 participants in the room, but the event is also taking place online. We've had more than 170 registered participants, so it's very great to see that new technologies allow us to expand our reach all across Europe and potentially beyond. This event is being provided with direct interpretation in English, French, and Greek. If you are here with me in Athens, then you've received on your chair a headset that you can use. There are 3 channels. Channel 1 is English, channel 2 is French, and channel 3 is Greek. Please make sure when you leave the event to leave the headset on your chair. That would be very much appreciated. If you are joining us online, interpretation is also available there. To access interpretation, you need to click on the world icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen and select the language you would like to listen in. English is English, French is French, but if you'd like to listen in Greek, Zoom does not provide Greek. You have to select Spanish, but you will hear interpretation in Greek. So English is English, French is French, and Spanish is Greek. If you have any issues connecting to interpretation, you can write in the chat and my colleague Milo will help you. Without further ado, I would like to give the floor to our president, Bernard Van Nuffel, who is also the president of Vivaqua, Brussels drinking water operator, for his welcoming address. Bernard, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jean-Yves. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to you who are in the room and to the many people who are following us online. In the framework of this EU Green Week, it's a real pleasure for me to open this seminar. First of all, I would like to warmly thank EYDAP and its president, George Stergiou, for co-hosting this seminar, with a special thanks to Georgios Sakinis and Katerina Apostopoulou, who worked hard behind the scenes to make this event a success. Ladies and gentlemen, the impact of climate change on Europe's water availability is now visible all across Europe, with an intensification of extreme weather phenomena such as droughts, floods, and heat waves. According to the European Environment Agency, about 30% of Europe's population is now affected by water stress during an average year. And the situation is expected to get worse as temperatures continue to rise. In addition, many technologies which are key to Europe's digital and green transitions are particularly water intensive. Think about microchips manufacturing, data centers, or hydrogen production. This adds another layer to the problem of water availability. This water crisis has devastating consequences on humans and wildlife, but it is also a threat to agriculture and the industry, including the energy sector. We are heading to difficult trades-offs, as there are no easy technological fixes. As public water operators, we do not stand still. We are working hard to propose strategies and approaches to ensure a sustainable use of water resources for all. Many of these are outlined in our recent publication, Resilience in Action, which you can find on the website of Aqua Publica. Today, we will focus on one particular aspect, using varying qualities of water for different purposes to alleviate pressures on valuable, high-quality freshwater resources, which should be preserved primarily for drinking purposes and for ensuring rivers' environmental flows. However, transitioning from a system where drinking water is used for all purposes to one that differentiates water quality based on its intended use poses several challenges in terms of governance, technical arrangements, and safety. This public seminar, which brings together experts and policymakers, will explore technological advancement, regulatory developments, and governance frameworks that could facilitate the use of a non-potable water for a variety of societal needs. In this context, it will contribute to the European Commission's water resilience agenda, which aim to ensure access to water for citizens, nature, and the economy, while also tackling catastrophic flooding and water shortages. I look forward to fruitful exchanges and innovative ideas that will emerge from this seminar. I wish you a very good seminar today. Thank you.
It's better if it's switched on, obviously. Thank you very much, Bernard, for this welcome address. Much appreciated. We were supposed to now move on to Petros Varilidis, the Secretary General for Natural Environment and Water at the Greek Ministry of Environment and Energy, but unfortunately has been taken longer than expected at a previous event. So he will join us, but later in the afternoon, and he will introduce the second session. I'm therefore then very happy to open the floor and introduce Valentina Bastino from the European Commission, who is joining us online. Valentina, I hope that you can hear correctly. And I'm waiting for the technicians to put you on the screen, which is the case, so that's perfect. So Valentina, first of all, thank you very much for connecting from Brussels. It's very much appreciated. I know it's a very busy period now at the European Commission after the recent EU elections. We've heard from the president kind of a gloomy picture of what's happening in Europe in terms of water scarcity and the lack of water availability. And in March earlier this year, the European Commission released a communication called Managing Climate Risk, where there is a whole section on water. And in this communication, it is said, and I quote, "Water needs to be managed and human demand needs to be adjusted to the new and more scarce supply." So it is clear that the European Commission is aware that there is a problem of water availability. And we've had the chance to welcome you last year in Gaia for an event on water reuse, where we really focused on water reuse for agricultural irrigation. Now we are very happy to have you here online, but also in Athens, hear about what the European Commission is doing and plan on doing to promote water reuse also beyond agricultural irrigation. So Valentina, very happy to hear your thoughts on this, and the floor is yours.
Indeed. Can you just confirm that you can hear me well, please?
Loud and clear.
Very good. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me to this very interesting event. Indeed, water scarcity, as we have heard from Mr. Van Nuffel, is indeed an increasing problem. My name is Valentina Bastino. I work for DG Environment, European Commission, and I work in the Sustainable Freshwater Management Unit. And indeed, as said, we are busy working on water issues these days. It is quite a hot topic. And so I am here today to illustrate a little bit the sort of the situation as analyzed in the European Environment Agency and the European Commission, and to tell you a little bit about our work on the reuse of water, both in the agricultural field, but also beyond. And with this, I will now share my screen. If you can just confirm that you see it properly, that would be great.
It's loading, and yes, now we can see your screens very well.
Very good. So, as mentioned, water scarcity is indeed a problem, and I have just placed on this slide just some figures. Unfortunately, Greece is not appearing in this slide, but it was just a sort of a selection of countries in Europe. This is data from the European Environment Agency and Eurostat from a report called Water Resources Across Europe. And as you can read on the slide, in most cases between the year 2000 and then 2017, with the latest data in this report, the availability of cubic meter of water per capita has been going down, bar some little exceptions, for example, in Romania. But in many cases, it has decreased quite dramatically. We can see, for example, in Austria from 11,000 something cubic meter, it went down to 8,444. So we can see that there's an unmistakable trend, and unfortunately, it is a downward trend. This other slide is also based on data from the European Environment Agency, and it represents basically the amount of water, the consumption of water compared to the available amount. This is based on an index called the Water Exploitation Index, which compares the amount of water abstracted with the amount of water that is returned to the environment after its use. And normally a value which is above 20% is an indication of water scarcity issues. And about 40% really indicates that the water scarcity issue, the water stress is really severe, indicating therefore that the use of water in that area is unsustainable. And as you can see from this slide, in certain member countries, there's still quite some water, but in other cases, from Romania up, let's say in this slide, the situation can get quite dramatic. This was data from 2019, which was a particularly dry year, but well, in certain areas of Europe, this remains indeed the case. So yes, we have a problem. And as recognized by the European Climate Risk Assessment published earlier this year, indeed, Europe is facing increased likelihood of extreme weather events, which on the one hand could be mega droughts lasting for multiple years, to extreme precipitations. And we have seen it. It's quite common in the news, unfortunately, these days to read about catastrophic flooding or very long and prolonged periods of droughts, even sometimes in areas that were not traditionally so affected by water scarcity. And I find this picture on this slide quite telling. It's a picture of a reservoir in Castilla y León in Spain. It dates back to February 2020, but it shows a reservoir, and the calculation was that it was only filled at 35 or something percent of its capacity. And that was in February, so supposedly during the winter months, where more water is normally available. So this, I think, is quite telling of the situation that is unfolding under our eyes in several places in Europe. Compounded, on the other hand, by excessive amounts of water falling at the same time and causing flooding. So this information, this increasing evidence that is mounting, and that can be seen also by the non-specialized audiences, I think people start seeing that there's indeed a problem, led to a slight policy shift whereby next to mitigation measures, we started really looking at adaptation measures to face climate change. Indeed, this was already a bit the case when the EU climate change adaptation strategy was published a couple of years ago. It was in 2021. where indeed the strategy called already for several measures to increase the resilience and the climate resilience in water management. And such actions to better adapt to climate change were about improving coordination between sectors, but also across borders, so underlined in this European dimension, to devise measures to better prepare and better manage droughts and floods, on the other hand, to really try to push for nature-based solutions instead of just exclusively focusing on grey solutions, improving sustainable management of soils to increase the water retention capacity. But I really want to focus on the last point, which was a call to reduce water use by encouraging water efficiency and water savings. And if I may say, water reuse and is a clear efficiency measures whereby we're using the available water resources more than once, so to speak, to make more efficient use of this precious resource. The European Commission has not been idle on the issues of water in the last few years. You can see in this slide a sort of timeline starting in 2007 when the first communication on water scarcity and droughts was published. And since then, there's been several communications that have been really looking at different possibilities and different measures and behavioral changes that are needed to better manage our water resources. I briefly mentioned, for example, the blueprint to safeguard water resources, which is a communication in which the potential of water reuse in Europe was recognized. I'm not going to read them all on this slide, but there's been several different policy documents. I just mentioned the EU climate adaptation strategy, and going then into more recent products, including the recent revision of the Industrial Emissions Directive, where there's calls to increase investment in measures to make more efficient use of resources. Water is explicitly mentioned in this revised directive, as is, by the way, the practice of water reuse. Going through then the revision of the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive, which is also very explicitly calling for a more systematic consideration of water reuse in this context. And finally, in 2023, we also had the water reuse regulation, which came into application. This last regulation is really dedicated to water reuse, but it does focus primarily on agricultural irrigations. And it is quite clear that we also need to look a bit beyond. And this was already set out in the Circular Economy Action Plan, the 2020 edition, whereby the Commission committed itself to really work on water reuse. On the one hand, encouraging the proper application of the water regulation rules and to really push for water reuse in agriculture, of course, where this is possible and where it makes sense. But the Commission also clearly committed to try to facilitate the practice of water reuse in other sectors, including in industrial processes, beside, of course, looking at the reviewing directives like the Wastewater Treatment Directive, which is now in co-decision. A provisional agreement has been achieved and publication should occur towards the end of the year. In general, therefore, there's been quite some work sort of preparing the scene for more work on the use of reclaimed water. I briefly mentioned the water reuse regulation. I'm just now showing a little bit the work that has been done on this particular one, knowing that it does focus on agricultural irrigation. But the Commission has been working on producing the tools to support member states in the process of applying the rules. In August 2022, we published guidelines on the application, and more recently, we have been working on a delegated regulation setting out technical specifications on risk management. According to the latest information I have, but I must admit I haven't checked today, it should have been published in the official journal today. And if it was not today, it's certainly imminent. And we're also working on a data reporting format. As in every piece of European legislation, there are some provisions about sharing data, so as to be able to see how this instrument is working. And we are currently very busy working together with the European Environment Agency in this field. Naturally, all these instruments and this work that we're doing on the water reuse regulation can easily be tweaked or adjusted to be used also in other areas. Provisions on risk management, for example, can be adapted and taken up also in other types of reuse with, of course, the opportune adjustments. Where are we now with the application of the water reuse regulations? I'm just reporting here a little map that is publicly available on the WISE Freshwater website. The last update was made in April 2024, and you can see in lilac, this is the member states which are at the moment not practicing water reuse. As you may know, there is a provision in the water reuse regulation that allows member states to sort of upfront evaluate the situation and decide that water reuse may not be appropriate in their country, at least for the time being. Sometimes the reasons cited behind such decisions are abundant resources of water, perhaps not a very low prevalence of irrigation in agriculture, and other similar constraints. But as you can see, there's quite a number of other countries where indeed there has not been such decision, and where therefore water reuse is or could be occurring in the agricultural field. I mentioned briefly during my slide on the Circular Economy Action Plan the fact that there's been revisions or plans to revise the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive and the Industrial Emissions Directive. And as you can see on this slide, well, both instruments still have to be published in the official journal. And in particular, the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive is waiting for to be finally approved once the new parliament settles in place. But both contain provisions that are supposed to encourage water reuse and in other settings than agriculture. So the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive does call for systematic promotion of water reuse in any field. It recalls that if water reuse is done for agricultural irrigation, then it should follow the rules of the water reuse regulation. And finally, there's been the introduction of a derogation from tertiary treatments in case of reuse in agriculture. Now, in the regulation, in the draft directive, tertiary treatment is defined as the processes that are intended to remove nutrients. And this derogation is intended to really facilitate the uptake of water reuse and preserving the amount of nutrients in the water when this is to be used in agriculture, of course with safeguards so as to avoid an exacerbation of eutrophication problems in areas where this problem may indeed be present. When it comes to the Industrial Emissions Directive, this is really about industrial installations, and there's provisions. So the particular point where water reuse is encouraged is where we talk about provisions to use environmental management systems, whereby measures to promote a more efficient use of resources, and here energy and water resources are specifically mentioned, are encouraged. And this includes a specific mention of the practice of water reuse. So we're hoping that these two new pieces of legislation would go on to contribute to really encourage and stimulate the deployment of water reuse technologies in other fields. Of course, we do not intend to stop working on these topics. We do have some planned works, and in general, we are adopting a sort of two parallel tracks, two main strands of work that we as a Commission intend to focus upon. One is to continue supporting the Member States in implementing the water reuse regulation rules. And we do know from discussions with Member States and practitioners that there is a need for further support to facilitate or to really help on risk management, on validation monitoring, and on various also administrative aspects in some cases where maybe there's less experience in certain authorities. But the other side of the work is really about promoting and encouraging water reuse beyond agriculture. How do we intend to tackle these two strands of work? Well, first and foremost, I would like to say that we would like to capitalize on the existing experience in the EU. We do have some member states that have been practicing water reuse in agriculture for many years, and we have drawn and will continue to draw on the expertise of this country to help us in our work. But there is also a lot of experience also in other countries, sometimes in more northern latitudes where it is less practiced in agriculture, but in areas like industry, urban applications, or street cleaning, landscaping, and this sort of application. So we're really planning to really work together with the member state authorities, with the practitioners in the field, with researchers, to really hold exchanges and share knowledge and experience, and gradually build experience and expertise across Europe. And in this, we're also helped very much by a working group, Water Reuse, which is a group of experts formed under the umbrella of the common implementation strategy of the water policy in Europe, basically a working group comprising member states authorities and representatives from civil society groups working on these issues and exchanging expertise and information about this practice. We also have a mandate in the water reuse regulation to perform an evaluation of the rules in 2028, which is not so far away. This evaluation is intended to look at how the rules are working. Are they actually incentivizing the take-up of water reuse? And one of the aspects that the Commission will need to look at within this evaluation is precisely whether we should enlarge the scope of the regulation to other sectors. And we are really starting to look into this particular aspect and studying the situation to understand if indeed this would be helpful and might make sense. And part of this analysis for the evaluation, but also for the future of possibly further uses of reclaimed water, will be based on an analysis of the data that will be reported. We are planning, this is to be confirmed, make sure that everything works fine, but we are planning to open the reporting infrastructure next week on 26th of June. And on the basis of the data received, we will start better understanding what is the situation on the ground and how things are evolving. So this will certainly provide a lot of information for our further analysis. And finally, to conclude, I can say that from the work inside the Commission, from the conversations that we're having with authorities, experts, researchers, we are really seeing that there's an increasing interest in water reuse applications, and this is across the EU. Only maybe 6 or 7 years ago, there was a tendency to think about water reuse as something for drier countries. But today, I think I can safely say that we really perceive that there's a slight shift in perception, and there's more interest beyond agriculture as well. And so we do see that there's quite a large potential that we can explore and tap into. And the work will likely or possibly focus in the next few years on some of these areas that are listed on this slide. But of course, we remain open also in light of the fact that a new commission is coming on and the situation evolves quickly, also climatically speaking. So we might need to adjust our direction of work. But the idea is certainly to continue focusing on risk management and validation monitoring, on supporting where needed with administrative practices, but also how to frame the practice of water reuse within integrated water management, and making sure that there is indeed enough water for all possible uses, and including for the ecosystems to function. Other areas, of course, will also look at more the water quality itself, and on the making the process as efficient as possible in all different aspects, including through nutrients recovery, for example, or by making sure that the water treatment is as energy efficient as possible. And certainly industrial reuse, urban applications, and grey water reuse will be areas on which we will focus in the weeks, months, and possibly years to come. And with this, I would like to thank you very much for your attention. And of course, if you have any questions now or at a later stage, you're more than welcome. And I will try to reply to the best of my abilities. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Valentina. I think that you offered really a broad overview of what the European Commission has been doing and is planning to do in the area of water reuse. Maybe two key takeaways from me is that in the Industrial Emissions Directive, there is an article that seeks to promote water reuse also in industry, which is really great to see that it's not only operators, but it's also the role of society in general, including the business sector. And that in the evaluation of the water reuse regulation in 2028, there will be indication whether there would be a need to enlarge the scope of the regulation to other sectors. So I think that is two really interesting points from my side. We are a bit behind schedule, but if there is one question, and if there is someone from the audience that would like to ask a question to Valentina, I can maybe take one question. Anyone in the room? No questions. So that's great. It means that you have been really loud and clear. So thank you very much, Valentina. If there are questions in the chat, and if you have the opportunity, you can maybe have a look and answer to them. I see that Milo maybe has a question from online. No? Okay, so perfect. He said that there are some questions on the chat. If you have the opportunity to stay a little bit longer to reply to them, that would be great. Otherwise, we can forward them to you by email for follow-up exchange. Valentina, thank you once again, and we send you a lot of sun from Athens to Brussels. I know for
we
sure
do have a little bit today, but it's an exception.
That's good to hear.
Thank you, and have a good rest of the seminar. Bye-bye.
See you soon. Bye-bye. So great, we've heard from the European Commission, who provided, I think, a really broad overview of what's happening in terms of regulation and promotion of water reuse. So now we'd like to move on to the first session. And I think that we try to be a little bit innovative here. Usually in this kind of conferences, the first session is about governance, regulatory framework, technicalities, and then the next session is about best practices. But here in this case, because they are faced with really needs on the ground and affections of water scarcity and drought, water operators are really taking the bull by the horns, if I can say. And they are going quicker than regulation. They don't have time to wait for regulation to be implemented, for technicalities to be designed. That's why we wanted the first session really to focus on concrete projects and best practices of what operators are doing on the ground. And then later this afternoon, we will talk about governance and technicalities. So for this session, I would like to invite two speakers to join me here on stage. The first speaker is Louise van Issaker, who is manager for research and development at the Water Group in Flanders. And the second speaker is Yorgos Sakinis, Director of Strategy and Innovation at EYDAP, the water operator of Athens. You can take a chair. And we will have two other speakers joining us online from Barcelona. Louise, I will start with you. You are from the Water Group, which is the largest operator of Flanders in Belgium. Well, as a Belgian myself, I'm very happy to have a colleague here on stage in Athens. Obviously, everybody knows Flanders for its beautiful cities, Ghent, Bruges. Antwerp is also the second, or maybe one of the capital city of fashion after or before Milan, depending on how you talk to. But what people might not know is that Flanders is a region which is highly affected by water stress. And I would be very keen to hear from you what the Water Group is doing to limit pressure on valuable freshwater resources. And maybe I can invite you to go to the lectern for your presentation, and my colleagues from the technicians will display your slides on the screen. There should be a remote control to allow you to move from one slide to another.
Working? Yes. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Louise van Isakker. I'm Manager Research and Development. You can hear me? Closer? Yeah, that's better. Okay. So when I start making this, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. It was a pleasure to make this presentation. So when I started to make this presentation last week, that was the weather forecast. So that's Belgium, that's here. So I was very happy to come here in real, so I could also enjoy a little bit of sun. So it was difficult also to me to make a presentation about water scarcity if you have this kind of weather, especially this year, but last year it was also not so good. But there is still a problem in Flanders, in Belgium, but especially in Flanders, on water scarcity. In is there a, yeah. So in this graph, you can maybe see the red laser pointer. That's the average groundwater level we have during the last 24 years. So you can see that there is a much more red bars than blue bars. So meaning that the average groundwater level is decreasing every year. No, this year and last year, it's again popping up, but there is on the long term a problem with those groundwater level. So also the reason why, so I took the map of Europe, you can see Belgium, a very small country, but especially the north part of Belgium, so Flanders is really dark red like in Italy and like in Spain. The reason why is because we are very small, but we have a lot of activities. The population density is very high. We have a lot of agriculture. We are making a lot of beer in Belgium, probably you know. But that making also the stress on the water infrastructure is very high. So we have also to find solution in the future, even with quite a lot of rain, for example, during the winter, to have enough water during the summer periods. That's a little bit our water landscape in Flanders. So in green, it's the regions where we have water like everywhere, but only in reds we have the regions where we are making drinking water. And as you can see, in the east part of Belgium, of Flanders, we have a lot of groundwater treatment plants. And then in the west of Flanders, we don't have a lot. And we are using surface water as source of drinking water. We are very depending of the region of Antwerp. There we have the Albert Channel, who is coming from the Maas. In this, so the Albert Channel is responsible for 50% of the drinking water production in Flanders, which is huge. So when there is a problem there, like 50% of Flanders doesn't have water anymore. So you understand there is a very high risk. There is a very strong infrastructure in Flanders, so the water who is producing in Antwerp, but also from the colleagues from Vivaqua, we are transporting from Brussels to Ghent to Ostend. So there is like 140, even more kilometers of pipelines, very big ones. So there also, if there is a problem with these pipelines, we have a problem to have water in the sea coast region. So meaning that you see, it's very sensitive. It's working very well. It's very robust. But if something is happening, then we will have a problem. So it's important to have enough different sources, but also sources who are strong enough for the future when we have a lot of climate change. So our minister, no, it's okay. So we have to invest in water reuse. I think we also saw it in the previous presentation and also during the day today, yeah. So water reuse, it's not new. I think you all know some example, but like, for example, in Wulpen, so it's also in Belgium, the colleagues of Aqua Publica Europea, they are doing this already for more than 20 years. So they are using wastewater from the wastewater treatment. They are doing some ultrafiltration reverse osmosis. They are putting it in the dune, and then after they also have another drinking water treatment. So it's something who is occurring today. another example, in California, they did like for 10 years research on the regulation of water reuse. So I think also here in Europe, we have to learn of them. We have to exchange some knowledge, and also to take the most important thing they have been seeing during the 10 previous years to also use in Europe. There is a very important difference between the direct and indirect reuse. So as you can see on the screen, on the top right, so direct reuse, meaning that you don't have a buffer. So directly, when you have the wastewater, you are treating it, and then it's again going to the households, to our customers. When you have an indirect reuse system, then you have a buffer. You have time to when there is a problem, you have time to tackle it in a reservoir or something. And with the red circles, I put all the examples, and you see most of them are using indirect reuse because it's strong as treatment system. It's less sensitive to change that you are not expecting. So that's very important that you also take this into account when you like to do some water reuse. Our minister of the Flemish region, she launched a Blue Deal. And it was the first time in Flanders that the minister gives so much money on water, which is good for us, of course, but meaning also that it's important to invest in a lot of research, innovation on water. So the whole Blue Deal, it's a huge amount of projects. You can see it here at the bottom, but it's 343 million euros who the Flemish government is investing in demonstration projects. And today I will present 3 of them, and also another project, which is a Horizon project from Europe. And I will just give you some, what we are planning to do or what we are doing now. 2 of these projects we are doing together with Faris. We call our new company, so the Watergroep and Faris Waterunie. So you will see more what we are doing together. So the first project is Bateau. It's the name. It's ship in French, yes. So the idea is to have a kind of winter-summer battery. I will explain you a bit more in detail. That's the infrastructure we have. So I mentioned these very huge pipelines we have between Brussels and Ostend. And so the water is coming from the region of Antwerp, but also from the colleagues of Viva Aqua. So the water is flowing to our distribution system. We have a huge amount of water in the winter. You can see it here in this graph. So we have like 6 billion of water available, cubic meters of water available in the winter, which is a lot. And it's a bit small, but we have the red and the green line here at the bottom. That's the drinking water consumption. So you see we have enough water, but the problem is storage. So the idea is to have this kind of battery. So we will put the water in the underground, and we call this aquifer storage and recovery. And we will do this only in the winter because there we have a lot of water. And then in the summer, we will pump it out. And we will do this at 2 different places, in Aalst and in Oudenaarde. Why this place? It's because it's very close to this main line. So the distribution system is there available. And with this project, we have a potential of 250,000 cubic meters of drinking water, which is more or less the same for 10,000 equivalents. And you can see some pictures beneath. And another project, which is called Deeper Blue, we will do a little bit more the same, but it's not only storage using from the already existing drinking water infrastructure, but we will do it with a new source with wastewater, the effluent from wastewater. So there, the wastewater treatment plant of Aalst, who is operating by Aquafin. There we have the possibility to have more or less 32,000 cubic meters a day. A very small part of this water will be treated using ultrafiltration, reverse osmosis, and activated carbon. We will put in the underground, and then we will again subtract at the same place as the other project. The ambition is to have a storage of 100,000 cubic meters of drinking water, and we will do this in the winter, the storage, and we will use again this water in the summer. Why? Because in Flanders, we have something like e-flows. It's environmental flows. We are not allowed to use the effluent from the wastewater treatment plant because the local rivers, the agriculture and so on also need this water. So you can imagine, even though the volume were very small, the agency is very strict on that. We have to use this water also for the environment. So you can feel a little bit the competition between drinking water industry, agriculture for the same source of water. So it's very important to take into account when you like to do some water reuse projects. Okay. Yeah, there's some more picture of it, and you can see when we were start drilling in the ground. I will also share the slides. There is a YouTube video with more information on the project if you are interested. We are moving from the west of Flanders to the east of Flanders. So there, remember the other picture, there is a lot of groundwater extraction plants there. And to be honest, we have much more difficulties to get our permits. It's like strange because in the past it was like, okay, it's for drinking water. So we are allowed to extract groundwater because water is a primary need. So you need them. But now we have really problem with nature, with other stakeholders. So it's very difficult to get our permits for groundwater. So it's why we have now two projects. So the one is Blue Future Limburg and the other one is Nathalie. It's one of the Horizon projects that I mentioned, where we will compare on the same location direct and indirect water reuse. So on the left side of the slide, you can see the information of the Blue Future Limburg project. So we were first to a proof of concept. It's not a tendering phase. So we will also tender everything together. So the R&D part and also the full scale part, it will be together with a private partner for a period of 20 years. It's also the first time at the Watergroep that we will have such a close collaboration with a private player. I think it's important to mention it here also because I think most of you are from public utilities. So that's also part of the research, is to see how this collaboration is going. Because most of the time when you are building a new plant, then you are used to work with partners like Veolia and so on. But when it's for operation, I don't know in your country, but in Belgium, we are not used to do that. So it's the first time that we will not only subtract the building, but also the operation for a period of 20 years. And the thing that we also like to investigate and this research is the financials, because yeah, you know, when you are building it, you are seeing for a period of 20, 30, or even 40 years. Yeah, here it's completely different because the private partner will do the investment for you. So that's also interesting to see how it's going. But there is still an important research part because, yeah, how we will tackle, because it's direct reuse, so there is no buffer. It's directly from wastewater to drinking water. So which kind of treatments the private partner will do, how he will be dealing with the microbiological and the chemical contamination and so on. So that's all things that we will do now in this project. On the same location, we have another project, and I was very happy that Valentina also mentioned the nature-based solution, because to be honest, I'm a biologist, but when I think from a technological point of view, we can treat every water we want, every water, seawater, black water, doesn't matter. But how can we do that in a sustainable way? Because, yeah, we will have a huge amount of concentrate, we will use a lot of energy and so on. Maybe in a few years, we will have to pay for our emissions, or maybe even not in a few years, but next year, I don't know. But it's very important also to take into account how can we deal this problem in a sustainable way. So, and therefore, we were very happy that we can combine these two projects, where Nathalie is more looking at a nature-based solution. So it will be the same treatment, but instead of putting directly in the drinking water system, we will have an aquifer storage at the same location. And then we will compare the cost of it, the risk of it, and so on between these two projects. I put more information about this Horizon project. Why? Because it's not only in Belgium, but there are a lot of projects also here in Greece, but also in other countries in Europe. So I will share the slides, and then you can also have a look if you are interested in the other demonstration. that's it. I hope I'm still on time. So if you have questions, I will be very happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Louise. I invite you, David, back to your chair. We'll take the questions. If you have questions for Louise, please keep them in mind. We will take questions after all the presentations in a bundle all together. So thank you very much for this presentation, Louise. I'm now moving on to Georgios from EYDAP in Athens. We are in Athens, and I think that the first thing that you realize when you leave the airport is it's hot. Huh? You really feel the heat here. And when you're on the plane, it's really impressive. You see really how arid the land around Athens is. And that you know how big a city Athens is in comparison to Brussels, for example. I think it's 4 times Brussels. It's really impressive to say, where does the water come from? And so I'm really interested to hear from you what EYDAP is doing to protect fresh water and ensure that water supply is indeed supplied to the Athens population. So Georgios, the floor is yours.
Welcome, everybody. It's a great honor to be here amongst you and it's very useful for us. Judging from the last presentation where we have all these very interesting projects comparing direct recharge with indirect recharge. This is the reason we are here, to share knowledge and to think about a future that it's new for everybody, it's new for our communities, and we need to see how we make our choices in the best way. And as you said it very right, Athens is an exceptionally interesting location to see what we're going to do with reusing water. Because it is very challenging and it has very large demands. And let me explain. First of all, I want to say to just give you a small introduction about EYDAP. EYDAP provides water to 4.4 million people, and it provides sewerage services to 3.7 million people. It has 14,000 kilometers of water network and something like 8,500 kilometers of a sewerage network. 4 water treatment plants, 5 wastewater treatment plants. Where do we get this water? To answer to Jean-Yves, we get this water from almost 500 kilometers of an external aqueduct of total length of 500 kilometers. And we're talking here about 4 lakes that are as far as 200 kilometers away from Athens. So it's all surface water, so we're spoiled. We have great quality of water. We love to drink our water. And so when we're talking about water shortage, this is a big challenge. Water quality and the fact that we are spoiled to enjoy very good quality of water. Some other facts that are interesting to hear here is that usually around the end of spring and the beginning of summer, we have about 1.1 to 1.3 billion cubic meters of water in our reservoirs. This year we had less than a billion, and we had 0.9 billion cubic meters. And the issue is also that it hadn't rained so much, so we're starting from very low and going lower. We listened to what it was said about, from the European Environmental Agency that we have the mega drought threat, and this is the reason why here in Athens we are already creating plans in order to make sure that in a couple of years we will be safe. What kind of plans? So we have plans that are those of augmenting and multiplying the water resources, looking at lakes beyond those that we already use. We're also looking at desalination. But today I don't want to talk about this. I want to talk more about the water reuse, because I think that this is This is an issue that we can definitely share experiences on. So what is water reuse in Greece, and why is it challenging? First of all, I want to tell you before we go to this slide that Athens goes from 600 meters of height to 0 meters. It's like this, which it's not flat. I know that some colleagues here come from flat cities. This is not Athens. And this is a problem because where our largest discharge of sewage, treated sewage is at 0 level, and it's in an island. And we're talking about 250 million cubic meters per year coming out of an island. What we use every year for our water is about, for potable water, is about 400 million cubic meters per year. So 250 million cubic meters is a source at the end in the sea, waiting for us to somehow use it. This is an issue. And it's an issue, especially if you need to go uphill. It's a lot of CapEx and a lot of OpEx. So we need to make a master plan of water reuse that is sustainable, but this is very, very hard. Of course, the first thing that we will look in this master plan is the reuse for potable uses, and I'm very excited about this example that you presented, especially the one comparing direct recharge with indirect recharge. In all honesty, this is something we are definitely looking into, both direct and indirect recharge as a potential of what to do with these 250 million cubic meters a year. So we should stay in touch and see what kind of results you get out of this project. As you well showed, there are examples around the globe, in the US, now more and more in Europe, but of course, there are concerns and there are policies that we all need to look into and make sure that the policies also progress with the technology and with the needs. So I think this is an interesting discussion to have, especially in the next session. One other type of water reuse that we are definitely exploring, except from the recharge of potable resources, is the non-potable uses. So what is Athens? Athens is a highly urban area in dire need, as you have felt in your skin today, of more green and blue infrastructure. This is critical for Athens. At the same time, this is the hardest type of water reuse needs. Why? Because it's scattered in the sea, in the city. It is very hard to be sustainable if you are just providing for parks, especially if you don't have many and you need to make some. And I'm saying this because we do not have enough of industrial use to say, oh, great, we have large industrial parks. This is our solution to water reuse. We also do not have much agriculture. We do have some in Eastern Attica, as you see in this slide, but it is not a lot. So the difficulty of creating a sustainable system of water reuse, one that will actually make sense, is very hard because of how scattered the needs are and where you get your source from. So what we need to do is we need to be very innovative and think of also decentralized approaches. It's not going to be only the wastewater treatment plants. For sure, it has to be, because as I said, we're talking about huge volumes, but we need to also discover the localized approaches and the localized solutions. So just to give you some numbers, these are our wastewater treatment plants, but then at the end, you see one thing called Hadrian Aqueduct. And you see that's Roman. So it's a Roman resource that we want to utilize. And you also see this SM, which means sewer mining units. So what is all that? Sorry, I'm skipping. Before I go to the centralized, let me just show you the plan that we already have to utilize our wastewater for agricultural use. And this plan is focused on the eastern part of Attica, where most of our agriculture is. So this is a big plan, and right now we're very busy doing that. But let's move now to some decentralized approaches. So what is sewer mining? Sewer mining is an innovative technology we have developed, which is green, 90% autonomous, and I think we're going to make it to be 100% autonomous. It will be remotely operated, which means that we lower OPEX as much as possible. And the plan is to use it as much as possible in Attica in order to make the system as sustainable as possible. Right now, we are talking about a capex of 280,000 euros per unit, and it goes to up to 600,000 euros per unit, and an OPEX that can reach even up to 1.47 euros per cubic meter. Now, that's a good price. And actually, this is another challenge of Athens. Athens, apart from all these things, also has very cheap water. The tariff is very low. So making it a sustainable water reuse system is very hard because energy is needed. You really need to, your own competition is very large. The Hadrian Aqueduct. What is the Hadrian Aqueduct? It's something that you will see in a little bit. The Hadrian Aqueduct is a Roman aqueduct spanning the city of 4 kilometers, and we are providing some water from it. In the next few years, we're going to do many works about that. What is the real value of this? It is not the water. We are talking here about 1% of the need of Athens, and we are also speaking about non-potable water. So it is not the water, but what this project has proved, and it is something that we will talk about in the afternoon in the trip, is that this issue of making a sustainable water reuse and system, a non-potable system, is an issue that is far greater than what us utilities are doing. It is an issue that demands symbiosis and cross-sectoral collaboration. When you speak about localized water reuse, which in our case makes sense, you're talking about industrial symbiosis. You're talking about symbiosis with the municipalities and everybody to use things like sewer mining like that. When you talk about bringing water from the island back to the land and thinking about the capex and opex of this, you need strong cross-sectoral partnerships with technology, with the technology providers to make sure that you have the most efficient process. You also need a lot of collaboration with policymakers in order to create what policy doesn't have right now, which is, as we said, the reuse, the direct reuse for potable and other things. You need incentives from policy, both for industrial use and for urban use that are not there. You need to think about how the community can help in this. And to put it in a nutshell, I think that it is something far greater, making a sustainable system of non-potable reuse. It is far greater than what us utilities can do alone. So what I want to finish with in this discussion is that it'd be lovely to speak more during these 2 days about what kind of synergies do utilities like yours have. What kind of synergies with your policymakers, with your technology experts, with your, with your industry, with your agriculture? What kind of incentives? What kind of challenges do you face together? How can we make a plan that will happen, is sustainable, will happen, and it will reach the commitment of all the agents and the stakeholders involved in it in order to make it happen. It is not an exercise that is It's simply proven. You really need to work together for this vision to happen. This is how I wanted to end this presentation, and thank you very much for being here again.
Thank you very much, Giorgio. So we heard you: coordination, incentives, and community engagement. We are moving from Athens to another region where there is huge water scarcity and drought issues, which is Catalonia in Spain. So I would like now to introduce our next speaker with Jordi Molist, who is Director of Water Supply at the Catalan Water Agency in Barcelona, Spain. Jordi, I hope that you can hear me and that you are joining us online. I can see you perfectly well, so that's great.
Yes, I can hear you. Good afternoon.
Excellent. Jordi, so Catalonia recorded last year record high temperatures, and this even led to water restrictions in Barcelona earlier this year. So I would be very keen on hearing from you what's the strategy in Catalonia to promote water reuse. Over to you.
Thank you very much, and thanks to your organization to the opportunity to speak here today. I will share a presentation. I hope it will work well.
It's working well.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, yes, I will explain our experience with this extreme drought event that is still ongoing in Catalonia and in Barcelona, and especially in the aspects related to indirect potable reuse. So, well, just a few words about location, and then I will go to this topic. And well, as you may know, we are at the other tip of the Mediterranean Sea. And Barcelona is in a region which is Catalonia. And well, this region is divided from a hydrological point of view into sides. And only the eastern side, which is in blue in this picture, is managed by the regional government, while the other side is managed by the national government because it's part of a larger basin. And well, one issue of this division is that people is in one side and the water, most of the water is in the other side. So we are managing the more difficult side because we have a lot of population and scarce water resources. And one consequence of that is that our main use is urban consumption. This is something different from other regions in Spain where agriculture is more predominant, but in our basin is urban consumption. And this is one of the things that help to explain our bet for potable reuse. So, well, I will show you the Barcelona water reuse scheme with some milestone, to understand how we reach the place we are now. And well, we can see here the Llobregat River is a small river, but anyway, it's one of the main sources of water supply for Barcelona. And well, this is how it worked 20 years ago before the reclamation scheme was built. So there was a drinking water treatment plant from the Llobregat River, and then the wastewater treatment was collected, treated, and discharged into the Mediterranean Sea. Later in 2006, we built the first stage of our reclamation system with a water reclamation plan, and then 3 uses were put into operation. The first was to pump the reclaimed effluent downstream of the drinking water treatment plant as an environmental flow. This was useful because in this way we didn't need to release water for this purpose from the dams, and so it was a saving of water in the reservoirs. And the second use was crop irrigation. And the third, and this was our first step on indirect potable reuse, was a system for groundwater replenishment. And the main purpose of this system was to fight seawater intrusion. You can see in the second picture on the right the problem of water intrusion in this aquifer, which is also an important source of water for Barcelona. due to many decades of overexploitation. And here the project was to build an hydraulic barrier with 14 injection wells where reclaimed water was injected just to create a freshwater barrier, trying to expel the seawater outside of the aquifer. Well, this was the system as it was in 2006. And in 2008, we have a large drought, an important drought. And then after the drought, we decided to enlarge the system with this addition, which is a facility that allows us to pump the reclaimed water upstream of the drinking water treatment plant. Now, this was built at that time as a safety net. We could say something that we didn't expect to use often, but we made some trials that I will explain in the next slides, just to keep the system prepared to enter in functioning. And then it came the present drought, which is much more extreme than the drought of 2008. Is the worst drought in 100 years of registers. So we put the system in operation. So now this system has been in continuous use for 1.5 years. And this is a picture of the place where we are mixing the reclaimed water with the Llobregat River water. So we are mixing now in proportions around 1:1. This is an equal mix of natural water from the river and reclaimed water. And then this mix goes downstream to the drinking water treatment plant, and then the water for the supply of Barcelona is produced. So, well, the main issue here was to guarantee that this scheme was safe, from a human health perspective, and also from an environmental health perspective, because it was affecting 8 kilometers of the Llobregat River. And this was what it was tested in the trials previous to the drought. As I said, we made some trials, and the first thing we did some years ago, before the drought, was to establish 2 working teams. One working team with all the stakeholders that are part of this project, and especially the Catalan health authorities, we as a river basin authority, and the local council, and also the operator of the plant. And well, I think that it was useful to integrate all the stakeholders from the very beginning of the project. And there was a second group that was formed by independent experts. So there were people from research centers, from the university. They were not linked to the government, and they act as a secondary testing of the idea. They were monitoring the process. And well, both groups established a trial that was designed in 2018 and carried out in 2019. And well, I will not go into details here, but in fact, it was the most important thing for the success of this project was this trial in 2019. During 2 months, we were using the system. This was before the drought, and we were putting the reclaimed water into the Llobregat River and producing drinking water. And we analyzed there a lot of compounds, almost 400 compounds, to give the health authorities the security that the system was safe for human health concerns. And well, here the most interesting part was that we found at any stage of the treatment, mainly in the wastewater treatment, 100 compounds. And here we have to establish guide values for these compounds, both from an environmental perspective and from a human health perspective. It was not easy because most of them were not regulated anyway, neither in Europe or in other countries. So we have to establish with the help of the expert group guide values for all of this. And at last, the final result of this trial was that only one compound in the drinking water was near to these guide values that had been established, only one. And then some measures were taken to reduce this. In fact, the measure was to modify the discharge permits of 3 factories that were using this compound. So the system was ready for operation, and the next year it came the drought. So fortunately, we have been testing it, and it was ready for operation. Now some things have changed from that moment, and the most important mainly is that the non-target analysis methodologies are now much more precise, and we are completing all this methodology with non-target analysis, which are now semi-quantitative. So we are aware for any new compound that could show up with these methodologies. So, which is the effect of this on the drought? And well, as you can see here, this is the composition of the components of the bulk water supply in the Greater Barcelona area, which is an area with 5 million inhabitants. And you can see here that indirect potable reuse is an important part, has been an important part during the drought of this water supply system, and also desalination. If we take both together, we can see that around almost 40% of the Greater Barcelona supply has been done with non-conventional resource, and this has been very useful to face the drought, avoiding a complete depletion of the reserves. And well, this is the evolution of the total water volume in the reservoirs, and as you can see here, these measures has helped to reduce the declining rate. And at last, this last spring has been more rainy, and we are a bit better now. We are not in the emergency state, but thanks to these things, desalination and indirect potable reuse, we have been able to cope with this drought. And just one more slide about the future, no? Well, we are working on these same lines, desalination and indirect potable reuse, just to increase the security of the Barcelona's water supply. And as you have seen in the current drought, we have been able to cover this almost 40%, 36% exactly, of the total demand of these 5 million inhabitants with indirect potable reuse and desalination. And our plans for the future is to double this amount, thus giving Barcelona much more security in its water supply. This is our plans for the next 5 years. And the main project of this new indirect potable reuse flows is the Besòs River. This is the other river in Barcelona, which is we call it a river, but in fact is made 90% of treated wastewater. And now, using the methodology of the Llobregat River, we are confident that we can produce drinking water from this river of treated wastewater. In this case, we are betting for a system of riverbank filtration. As you can see here, we are now drilling the first wells, and our purpose is to build a plant to use this water in case of drought. And well, this is all. Thank you very much for your attention.
Jordi, thank you very much for this presentation. I saw that there were a few questions popping up in the chat. So since you're online, I'll let you reply to them directly. I think it's a nice opportunity also to engage with some of the participants. You've mentioned some measures such as desalination. Now we are staying in Barcelona, in the region of Catalonia, but we're turning now to Maria José Chesa, which is from Barcelona Cicle de l'Aigua, which also is one of a member, with going to talk about regulation and how regulation could potentially also help reduce the demand, which is also another point where we can work. So Maria Jose, I hope you are with us. Jordi, you can maybe stop sharing your screen.
Hi everyone. Could you hear me well?
We can hear you well, but I can still see Jordi. So let's see whether we can switch to you in a minute and see you speak. And if you can already start showing your slides, I think maybe it will help for us to see you appearing on screen. So Maria Jose, you are going to talk about a new regional draft ordinance, so it's still a draft as I understand, that seeks to separate black and gray water in new building in Barcelona. Now I can see you on my screen, so I'll let you share your screen and start your presentation.
Fantastic. Could you see my presentation now?
Yes, it has just
Good.
appeared. So perfect, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. On behalf of Barcelona Water Cycle, that is the public company that manages the entire water cycle in Barcelona, I'd like to say thank you to Aqua Publica Europea and all the organization in Athens. We are very happy that be with you today. I'm sorry that it is impossible about our situation to be with you physically, but I hope that our presentation will be nice for all of you and learn together. Barcelona Water Cycle is a public company, and we are working with the network of public operators at the European level, at national and Catalonia. We also work with international association and cooperation, participate in European projects and other initiatives in order to do the best with our resources. The forecast for the future is like the other presentation. The increase in demand and the decrease of resources produce a deficit, in our case for the city of Barcelona, about 18 cubic hectometers by 2050. At the metropolitan level, the forecast for the same date, we are also a deficit of 36 cubic hectometers. We need to explain that the evolution of the water consumption at domestic sector in Barcelona is the same for all Catalonia. We are now about less than 100 liters equivalent inhabitant a day. If we compare the water consumption at the beginning of this century by now, in all the sector, we are a good behavior, a good decrease of this consumption about the same population. We are doing a lot of efforts for avoid the consumption of potable water and use other alternative resources. We have since 1998 an alternative water resources master plan for the city of Barcelona with 7 action lines in order to use the kilometer zero water, alternative water resources, like groundwater, regenerated water from the wastewater treatment plant, grey water that we explain and focus at the same slide, but also the use of rainfall and the direct seawater. We have also measures for improving the efficiency and avoid the water losses. In all the things that we can act, we are doing this. But we now about the drought that we are facing now, we need at the level of the cities work with new regulation to increase this use of water, alternative waters, and preserve drinking water. We are now working on this new regulation about the use of rainwater in the city of Barcelona, and we start at the beginning of this year, and we need to have a new regulation in the city. We need a lot of reports and a lot of evaluation on the impact of this new regulation. Okay, we have in several master plans in the city, we have also an emergency action plan that is a compromise to start this regulation. And now we are doing this ordinance about the use of rainwater. And what is the objective? It's clear, is reduce the consumption of drinking water in the city. What are grey water? In our case, in this ordinance refers to water from baths and showers, and also the water for the maintenance of swimming pools. And this water, once treated, can be used for the toilet system, flushing in the toilet, and also watering and cleaning green areas and spaces. This is an scheme about the installation that we are thinking in this new regulation. And with this solution, we have a high potential of saving, because the production of rainwater compared with the use, these are the numbers for a typical household in Barcelona. We have a good balance for the production and the use. Okay, and about the legal framework, at the national level or regional, we don't have any regulation that is mandatory to build this installation. At the past, we have some regulation that this is forbidden. It's impossible in the residential sector to mix different qualities of water. In the past, it was only we need only have drinking water, but the regulations are evolutioning. And now we have in different cities in Catalonia and Spain, ordinance for the cities that regulate this use. Near to Barcelona, in Sant Cugat, we have a previous ordinance. Then in Barcelona Provincial Council, we have also a proposal for below. There is a standard and national standard for the installation of this system. And in Barcelona, from 2022, is mandatory in the new areas of planning, is mandatory to install greywater recycling systems. Okay, and now we are working for all the city, and this installation will be installed only in new construction or great renovations. In residential buildings with 16 or more households, also other activities that have a consumption of 500 cubic meters of grey water for flushing or other uses by a year. We don't recommend for hospital or schools or some centers that there is a risk of this use. And what type of water? Is only water for showers, baths, and the maintenance of swimming pools. There are other resources that we don't think that the risk, if we consider the balance between the production and the use, We don't need more water than this from showers and baths. And there will be in this ordinance, in this regulation that we are working now, also the responsibilities for each actor in the construction, in the project, construction and maintenance. For the experience of our other cities near Barcelona, there is the key for have a good success of this installation. We also, we have a regulation in Barcelona that a new ordinance need a economic impact at the environmental, social, and economic level. We need to have different simulation for residential buildings, hotels, and sportive centers, that this solution will be also a benefit at all these levels. This is the scheme, and also the highlight about the importance of the maintenance of this system, because we need the quality for the uses. We need zero E. coli, and then we need an effort of control of all the quality and all the process. And to finish the presentation, for conclude my my presentation, I would like to say that Barcelona is a responsible city that address a new regulation to preserve drinking water resources, and we have an economic saving with a minimal investment. And thank you very much for your attention, and we are available to answer any question now or by email. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Maria Jose. It's very much appreciated. We see here that what we ask people, and maybe it's the most difficult part, is to change, because here it's a real paradigm shift. We ask people to really consider the value of water. And we move from a situation where water was freely accessible to a water scarcity. I think this is really tough here. So it was really interesting to see what Barcelona is considering, because I think it's not yet approved, but there is a process of considering this new ordinance. We are a bit lagging behind in terms of timing, so I would suggest that we break here for 10 minutes for coffee. It's now 3:35 Athens times. So I suggest that we start back at 3:50. And if you would like to have questions for our two on-site speakers, you can catch up with them around the coffee. So thank you very much, and see you back in 10 minutes. We will shortly resume, so I invite you to finish up your coffee and go back to your seats. Can I please ask you to go back to your seat? We will start soon the second session. So it was a real pleasure to be here and to have you with us. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Sorry for not meeting the time that I was supposed to speak. I was in another town, and they started late. They were late, so here we are. I got stuck in the traffic then. That is not unusual for Athens, but okay. I'm very glad that I see here from the half hour that I managed to follow that there are very good ideas on how to promote water use. Us as a government, we strongly support water use. We believe it's a necessity. It's part of the solution. It's not the only solution, obviously. It has to be combined with desalination as well, more infrastructure projects, but also much more reuse and less water drilling from groundwater that is depleted anyway. So we have a European legislation that clearly shows the direction. We have two relevant documents, one for the reuse as such, and another one, very recent one, for the wastewater treatment plants and regulations that need to be applied. So clearly, for a city the size of Athens, we need to have water use. We need to have also, and that's another part of the whole equation, treatment of rainwater after some time. So that means more quantities to be reused. So we are by the side of EYDAP. We are very proud of EYDAP. It's our best water service provider by far. And we depend on EYDAP to be at the front line of innovation, bring new ideas, implement them. They have the technical capacity, they have the administrative capacity, they have the will. So we think that they are, an excellent partner for us to be able to implement new ideas and bring new ways of managing water resources to the benefit of the citizens, the benefit of the industry, because a lot of water use can be also carried out or used in the industry, but also for EYDAP itself. In any case, wherever the state needs to intervene in order to simplify procedures, reduce bureaucracy, put some extra standards so that there is that the general public feels safe about water reuse. setting up rules in order to establish a level playing field for everyone. We are willing to proceed with whatever is necessary in order to facilitate water use. And I don't think we should stick only to water use for irrigation, but also we should look at water use also for potable water, given also the fact that anyway it's so much diluted to the fresh water that at the end of the day the quantities are not that high. So the concerns for pharmaceuticals or other substances are less severe. Of course, I think I saw it is Catalonia that showed what they do. They measure everything, lots of substances. So there are ways to do it. Others can do it, so we can do it. I hope that you have, and I'm sure you're going to have a very successful workshop, and hopefully we will get some very good ideas of it. For example, show that the regulation for the buildings above a certain threshold, that's a very interesting idea. So we're looking forward to collect all these interesting ideas and see how we can transplant them to Greek reality. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Varoudidis. It was really a pleasure for us to have you with us. We can now start the second session. As I mentioned earlier, the first session was really about the project and best practice. And I said, well, we would park the discussion about governance and the technicalities later on. Now is the time. So I'm very glad to welcome on stage 3 speakers joining us on site and 1 speaker joining us online. So Theodore Bellos, you can come to the podium, as well as Diana Georgiakopoulou and Manuel Sapiano, you can take your chair. So this session is really an occasion to discuss governance and technical conditions needed to maximize the potential of non-potable water in Europe, and hopefully to scale up some of the great initiatives and projects we've heard in the first session. So we have a large panel. We have here Theodore Bellos, who is from the Decentralized Administration of Attica. We have Diana from the SEV Business Council for Sustainable Development, business representative. We have Roberta from the Joint Research Center of the European Commission joining us online. And we have finally Manuel Sapiano, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Malta's Energy and Water Agency. So first of all, thank you very much for joining us here in Athens. And maybe I will start with you, Diana, because you are our business representative. And I don't know how the atmosphere is in Athens, but in Brussels, it's really about competitiveness, and competitiveness. But can we have competitiveness if we don't have water? We need water to maintain and achieve competitiveness. So I would really be glad to hear from you from an industry perspective. What can the industry do to safeguard water? And what are the interests and conditions for the industry to use reclaimed water? The floor is yours. Need to switch on the mic. Perfect.
Thank you very much for being here today discussing this very important issue about water. I was thinking to start by saying how important it is for our lives, water, but I guess that everybody in this room knows. However, I'm going to say, and I'm going to stay on the issue of how indispensable it is for the economy. As based on the World Bank, according to World Bank study, shows that in some areas, maybe they are going to suffer from GDP declines as much as 6% by 2050 as a result of water losses, related losses impacting in our life, in our agriculture, health, water properties, etc. At the same time, and in other regions that they are doing better water management, they are going to see an economic acceleration as much as 6% at the same period. So we can understand that water is very important for the economy of our countries, of our regions. And this is going to be more intense in the years that are going to come due to the climate change. So regions in EU that are water stressed, like Greece, they're going to face more potentials leading to water shortages and droughts. So we're here today to discuss about how we're going to do this proper management to reuse and reduce the water consumption. However, by looking to data, we can see that in the European Union, the percentages that the water is reused, they're not very high enough. For example, the European Commission showed that 1 billion cubic meters of treated urban wastewater is reused annually, corresponding to 2.4% of treated urban wastewater and less than 0.5% of annual freshwater withdrawal in the Union. For Greece, I think the percentages are more declined and less than these. And if we're going to deep dive and say by sector what is happening, we will say that for industry, the level of reuse, the use of reclaimed water is near to zero. Having said that, I need to say here that maybe industry, it's not a very big consumer. It's not the highest consumer of water in Greece, and especially in the region of Attica, as by an outdated, of course, study that we have from EYDAP back in 2009. It showed that it revealed that industry use water less than 2% of the water that's used in the region. However, Mr. Sachinis, in his early speech, said that we're spoiled and we like to drink our water because we have a very good quality of water. This means that we don't have to consume this very nice quality water into uses that are not, they don't need to have some increased quality, such as refrigerators or air conditioning for the industries, equipment, roads, and exterior areas without racing processes. For example, the aggregates, we don't need to receive potable water for these. Industrial productions, exterior areas, and landscape watering. So these are some areas that the industry could reuse reclaimed water. In the recent years, in the last 5 to 8 years, we see that most of the industries, and especially those that they're using, they're high water consumers, they have started implementing and embedding such actions into their strategy in order to reduce the fresh water that they consume. Yet, despite these efforts, it is clear that we must accelerate our collective actions. And let's go deep dive a little bit more on how we're going to do that, what it is needed from the side of the industry, what are the efforts that we need to do in order to enhance the reclaimed water. If I could divide it in 4 pillars, I would say that the first one, and the most important, is the framework. By saying that, we all admit that we cannot improve something that we don't measure. There are considerable deficiencies in the field of measurement, not in the quality and quantity of waters, as there are many studies as the River Basin Management Plan, but in terms of the reliable data that we have on resources and the end of users, what they need, what quality the industry needs in terms of water. As a second point on the regulator framework is that we need maybe to harmonize and integrate, to modernize and to harmonize the regulator framework, particularly in terms of specifications, standards, and discharging conditions. And this frame should be aligned with the EU directives. I think that Luis earlier said about the Blue Deal. It is a standalone framework, well known, that it's going to a strategic framework which points out the urgent need of reduction, reuse, and recycled water, and we need to align whenever it is ready to be assigned to align with this framework. As a second point, I would say that industry needs infrastructure development. Infrastructure development in order to ensure that the reclaimed water can be properly distributed to industries. One of these treatment can be a treatment plant like the sewage mining. Other needs may be pipelines to connect the sewage treatment plants, the water from the effluent from the sewage treatment plants with the industry. The third, very important also for the industry, it's the quality. And when we seek quality, we mean to ensure a standard quality for the water in order to know how to use it. And the last but not least is the cost. This is the most important for everybody, I believe, because we all know that in order to reuse water, we need to invest in R&D, new technologies, infrastructure, and that means initial cost for everybody, and especially for EYDAP. But cost decrease as adoption increases, and this makes the technologies more appealing for the companies. Implementing financial incentives that invest in water reclamation technologies can offset the initial cost of and encourage the adoption. To conclude, I would say that it's time to act. By fostering cooperation between governance and industry, we can create a sustainable future where water management, it's not just an environmental imperative, but also a driver for economic and competitive growth. Our council, as representative of several leading Greek companies and various businesses across all sectors, have been since its establishment back in 2008, engaged in promoting this public dialogue because we want to engage more our stakeholders on sustainability issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jenna. So we heard you frameworks, infrastructure developments, quality, and of course, costs. The second point is, I think, really interesting, like infrastructure development. When we had our meeting in Gaia, where we talked about water reuse in agriculture last year, the question of how reclaimed water is distributed from wastewater treatment plants to agricultural fields was also one that came at the forefront. So it's really interesting to see that it's the same question that applies for agriculture also applies to industry. How would you say that in Greece, industry is ready to welcome reclaimed water? Do you think there is still some sensitiveness, as there might be for the public? Or do you think that no, there is a better consciousness between the industry that we need reclaimed water to go forward?
We believe after some questionnaires that we shared to the industry, we saw that these questionnaires revealed that there is a strong intent from industries to use reclaimed water. They need it, especially those that they have high water consumption. So I believe that it is now the time, actually it's now the time to work on that and find the ways and the solutions to reuse water and leave the rest of the water for other purposes.
Great to hear. Thank you very much, Jenna. I'm now turning on to our online speaker, Roberta Maffetone, who is Scientific Project Officer at the European Commission's Joint Research Center. The Joint Research Center, or the JRC, as it's commonly known, is really the scientific branch of the European Commission. And Roberta have been attending workshops and seminars that you have been organizing for the past few months. First of all, thank you very much for connecting with us in Athens. I'm really interested for you to explain a bit what role plays the JRC in supporting regulatory developments and promoting best practice sharing in the area of water reuse. So over to you.
Thank you very much for the invitation. As a PD, I cannot be there. It would have been wonderful also to meet everybody in person, not only to enjoy beautiful Athens and Greece. I know that you will enjoy it at the most for the rest of the day. You well introduced myself and the role of JRC. And I will spend some words at how we initially supported the policy around water reuse. We have been working, supporting the DG Environment and the member states over the last few years by providing scientific advice first on minimum requirements for water use in agriculture irrigation and aquifer recharge, and after the entering into force of the water use regulation by providing the guidance on the risk management aspects that are required by the regulation. To do so, one of our way that we work is we tend to establish a network to exchange best practices of water reuse within the European Union, and to learn from who is already applying water use in local context to understand the challenges and the benefits, and to put this on the table. So thanks to the workshop that we organized in the first phase on supporting the implementation of the water use regulation, we developed guidance, and we are continuing with this type of practice by organizing further workshops, and this more recently not switching the focus, but opening to reuse beyond agriculture irrigation. This is mainly for three reasons. Of course, reusing agriculture irrigation is a need, but it's a need in particular in the southern countries of the European Union. Then, for a second reason, is that the countries that, as Valentina Bastino showed at the opening presentation, have opted not to use water for agricultural irrigation, but there are territories, especially in western and in the west, eastern, north countries of the European Union, that are opening and are more interested in reusing water for other applications, including urban applications, environmental restoration, and also industrial application. And for industrial application, there is also a difference within the territory of the European Union, where industry represents the first sector for freshwater abstraction in the European Union, in the north, east, and west member states, and agriculture is the first one in the southern European countries. So in those territories, indeed, they are looking into reusing industrial wastewater for industrial application. One big question that we are working now on is that if beyond what the water use regulation is establishing, which is that member states may decide to use reclaimed water also for other application, industrial amenity related application, if a regulatory framework is needed. And we are exploring this still with the use of our technical workshops. We organized a couple of technical workshops last year in 2023. One was dedicated on case studies on reusing municipal wastewater for industrial applications, and other in reusing still municipal wastewater for irrigation of urban parks and other applications for urbans, like cleaning streets or irrigating golfs. And we noticed that for the industrial part, the industries are well supported by existing ISO standards that they determine the quality of the water, and they are already approaching the fit for purpose criteria, which means that they will determine the quality of the water that they will need for their scope, for example, for a cooling tower or for washing their machinery. And they are also applying risk management processes to ensure that the safety of their workers is guaranteed during the reuse of water. Similarly, also ISO standards at the moment are supporting the assessment of how to use reclaimed water for irrigating urban parks. So we are still continuing with this. We will have more workshops to discuss, to exchange best practices, and we will see, we hope that in the next months we will have a better understanding of how we can further support the uptake of water use in all the sector in the European Union. And as a final remark, what we also learn, and what I learned as well from the other presentations, very interesting from today, is that water use is not the solution, it's part of the solution. We need to act at understanding the local condition, the geography, the hydrology, the needs, where the water is needed, and we also need to look at how to manage freshwater resources. So this will include that within our area, we need to understand where water is needed. It's needed for ecological flow, is needed for reuse, and at that time we will have a better understanding that if water use is one solution for that or not. So we have, and in this we need multidisciplinary and collaboration, and also the involvement of all the actors involved.
Thank you very much, Roberta. One thing that I've learned working in policy circles is that before drafting regulation, you need to have reliable data. Do you think that at this stage there is sufficient data for water reuse to develop a regulation for water reuse in industry, or do you think that we still need to develop this data? Or maybe the data is there, but it's not accessible?
Well, as for the water use, as for the same, how to say, the format of the water use regulation established minimum requirements. Those are the minimum requirements that ensure the safety for the production of the food, which is based on very few parameters, most important for microbiological protection, but everything, all the parameters for the quality of the water has to be established by risk management. So is the tool of the risk management process that is applied on a specific case, and which is based on the idea of a fit for purpose. So which quality do I need for this purpose, and which parameters do I need to put under control to ensure the safety of the human health, the animals, and the environment. So this concept can be applied in all the final uses of water, from agriculture to industry to many other uses. So you don't really need a standard. You will need a set of parameters, then everything else you will need guidance of risk management.
Clear. Thank you very much, Roberta. It's very much appreciated. So we've heard the views from the industry. We've heard the scientific branch of the European Commission. Now I'm turning to the administration. And we'll start first with Manuel Sapiano, who is, as I said before, CEO of Malta's Energy and Water Agency. So we've had a few discussions with speakers from Greece, from Athens. In Malta, the situation is similar and very different. Similar because there are high issues with water scarcity, but different because obviously it's an island. And we had a chance to meet in Lisbon 2 weeks ago. And Manuel, you told me, in Malta, we have the water that we have. We cannot have more. And so I would be really interested to hear from an island perspective, what's the strategy of Malta to promote water reuse? And I know that you have specific experience on aquifer recharge, so I would be glad to hear your thoughts on this as well. So Manuel, the floor is yours.
So, first of all, thanks for the invitation to be here. And apart from the island perspective, Malta brings about also the unavailability perspective, because if we were to describe Malta's situation very simply, is that our natural water resources are sufficient to provide us water, almost half the water which we need. So we can say that by June, by this month, we would have finished all the water resources available for which we can sustainably use throughout the year. And that has meant that our policy has developed, let's say our water policy has developed throughout the years, very much focused on water demand. So very much focused on how we are going to manage our water demand through two different, I would say, ways of action, through different directions. First of all, obviously, water demand management, so efficiency in all sectors, efficiency at the level of the water utility, so efficiency in distribution, efficiency, but also efficiency in use at the perspective, at the point of use of the user. And there's a lot of measures and there's a lot of initiatives in Malta to support users in being efficient. But we also know that if we manage to be super efficient, we still don't have enough water. And therefore, the second arm, the second way of approach of our policy is not, I wouldn't call it supply augmentation, but it is more supply diversification, where since the 1980s, we have invested heavily in desalination, particularly for potable supply, which has left our agricultural sector grossly dependent on groundwater, which throughout the years has suffered a decrease in its quality. And therefore, from a strategic perspective, we saw water reuse, so wastewater reuse as a way of diversifying the water supply of the agricultural sector. Obviously, Malta is a small island, high population density. Our urban water supply is almost as important as that of the agricultural sector, and the urban areas are intertwined with the agricultural sector. So therefore, even the distances for the distribution of reclaimed water are limited. So it's possibly an optimal conditions, an optimal scenario where water use can be undertaken and implemented. Particularly in the agricultural sector, we're looking through our current program for water use, which is managed by our water utility, to actually arrive at a point of supplying almost 30% of the needs of water needs of the agricultural sector through water reuse. And as let's say referred to as outlined in one of the presentations, which I managed to also here, there's also the aspect of reuse in the urban centers related to grey water. So we're speaking about decentralized non-conventional water resources, and that's also an area which we are investigating with all its positives and negatives, because when you talk about grey water reuse, you're also reducing the flow of water which goes to sewers, and therefore wherever you have low slope sewer systems, gravity sewer systems, a concentrated sewage, a more concentrated sewage can also bring a challenge. So you cannot just look into a measure, but you have also to look at the whole impact of that measure on the, let's say, urban or national water cycle. However, looking at reuse and looking at reuse being done by water utilities, I believe that this opens up or broadens the context of what water services means. Particularly, if we look at the Water Framework Directive, Water Framework Directive defines water services, Article 2, very, very clearly, which is an activity which produces, supplies water, collects, treats wastewater, and discharges it to the natural environment. But here we're adding up a component of treating wastewater and making it available for reuse. And this broadens up the context of what a traditional water utility is. And particularly also because we have tended in policy to look at water utilities as users of natural water resources. So water utilities were causing environmental and resource costs. But now if we put reuse in their portfolio, water utilities are generating water which can be used instead of natural water resources. And if we were looking at costs in the conventional part, we should also look, in my opinion, at benefits in this augmented part, or this augmented part of the context of water utilities, particularly because now with reuse we'll have water utilities which are generating resources and which can also generate environmental benefit. And that has to be taken into consideration, because reuse can make good volumetrically for the water which the utility is taking from the natural environment. And therefore, we can look at the context of resource speaking and net at zero impact utility, because the utility is giving back to the water environment a part of the water which it takes from the natural environment itself. And therefore, this starts to change the context of how water utilities need to be considered, and opens up also I would say an interesting argument of how to achieve cost recovery. Therefore, there's an element of economics and environmental economics which we should increasingly look, because reuse opens up this opportunity, and we can use these economic benefits, these environmental and resource benefits, to actually help utilities and promote more water reuse. And the context of environmental benefit brings me exactly to managed aquifer recharge, because with managed aquifer recharge, particularly when reused water, reclaimed water, is used for managed aquifer recharge in periods of low demand, when in winter, when actually nature is giving us rainfall and therefore there's a lower demand for irrigation water, this reclaimed water can be, through managed aquifer recharge, either used for storage, so using the aquifers for increasing the storage of water for use in periods of high demand, or actually also looking at supporting the recovery of groundwater resources. And therefore, one can look at resource benefits, but one can also look at resource and environmental benefits which can be undertaken by managed aquifer recharge. And this is an aspect which we are testing in Malta in a small aquifer system, where we're actually using reclaimed water to reclaim, so to support the recovery of a polluted groundwater body, but also, I would say interestingly from an economic perspective, having that groundwater body in good quality means that it can be used by farmers. That also means that when there's an issue with the production of reclaimed water, farmers can turn to groundwater, and therefore we can also see managed aquifer recharge as putting in an insurance value, because it can also lead to flexibilities in case of over demand or in case of lack of production, and therefore it can also lead to a better agreement, a better cooperation with farmers, because it will increase water supply security, and therefore there's also values in that regard. At the European level, we have been working, particularly from a groundwater perspective, on a guidance on managed aquifer recharge, which should be published later this year. And let's say, the main conclusions which are coming out from this process are that basically, first of all, we don't need a new directive, because the groundwater directive and the water framing directive, in the opinion of this working group, have already sufficient provisions which can ensure the safe application of managed aquifer recharge. We don't need additional levels of regulations. Another aspect which comes out is that there was a good discussion on whether reclaimed water can be used for managed aquifer recharge, and the interpretation which the CIS working group is coming up with is that it is not the origin of the water, but it is the quality of the water which is important, and particularly when we look at reuse. And reuse comes from a production process where we have a higher level of control on the quality of the water. Sometimes it can be, let's say, more secure to use high-end treated water than actually surface water, where you have a lack of control on the origin of the water itself. And therefore, the aspect of a risk assessment, more than saying that reuse is just out of the equation. Lastly, obviously, as required in the directive, there's an element of permitting which is required for managed aquifer recharge, And this permitting should take into consideration the requirements for the Water Framework Directive requires for prevent and limit objectives, and therefore actually looking at that managed aquifer recharge, if applied safely, should contribute to the achievement of the WFD's Article 4 environmental objectives. And that's the last, let's say, issue which I wanted to raise.
Thank you very much, Manuel. I think you made a really clear and interesting with the final speaker of this session when you talk about the need to restore groundwater resources, because restoring is good, but we also need on the other side to protect it in the first place. And I think there are some good practices that are happening here in the Attica region. And our next speaker, Theodore Bellos, who is Director of Water Management at the Decentralized Administration of Attica, I think will tell us more about that. And I think, Theodore, that you will speak in Greek, so I invite you to take your headsets if needed to listen to what Theodore will be saying.
Καλησπέρα και από μένα. Σας ευχαριστώ για την πρόσκληση. Η εισήγησή μου θα είναι εν συντομία στα υπόγεια υδατικά συστήματα της Αττικής, όπως αυτά επαναπροσδιορίστηκαν με τη δεύτερη αναθεώρηση των σχεδίων διαχείρισης λεκανών απορροής ποταμών. Σύμφωνα με το σχέδιο αυτό, το οποίο ψηφίστηκε πριν από ένα μήνα περίπου, στην Αττική έχουν οριοθετηθεί 24 υπόγεια υδατικά συστήματα, εκ των οποίων τα 6 έχουν χαρακτηριστεί με κακή ποσοτική κατάσταση. Επίσης, 4 από τα 24 αυτά υπόγεια υδατικά συστήματα εντάσσονται στο μέτρο για την προστασία των υδάτων που προορίζονται για ανθρώπινη κατανάλωση και λαμβάνονται μέτρα προστασίας κυρίως για τα σημεία υδρολειψίας, με ζώνες προστασίας και με απαγόρευση νέων ιδιωτικών έργων υδρολειψίας. Σχεδόν στο σύνολο των υπόγειων υδατικών συστημάτων που έχουν μέτωπο στη θάλασσα έχει παρατηρηθεί στην παράκτια ζώνη το φαινόμενο της υφαλμύρυνσης και τα μέτρα που λαμβάνονται για την προστασία τους είναι η απαγόρευση νέων έργων ανόρυξης και κατά περίπτωση περιορισμός στις ήδη υφιστάμενες υδρολειψίες στις αντλούμενες ποσότητες. Γενικότερα, στο υδατικό διαμέρισμα της Αττικής, σύμφωνα και με το κείμενο τεκμηρίωσης, δεν έχει γίνει κάποια μελέτη για εφαρμογή προγράμματος τεχνητού εμπλουτισμού, ενώ φαινόμενα τεχνητού εμπλουτισμού έχουν καταγραφεί κατά περιοχές και κυρίως στις παιδινές και προσχωματικές ζώνες που οφείλονται στις διαρροές των αστικών υποδομών. Στην Αττική, το μεγαλύτερο ποσοστό των υδατικών πόρων καταναλώνεται δηλαδή από τη γεωργία. Η επαναχρησιμοποίηση των επεξεργασμένων λιμάτων μπορεί να θεωρηθεί αξιόπιστη παροχή νερού και κάτω από προϋποθέσεις μπορεί να είναι πολύ επωφελής για γεωργικές δραστηριότητες. Η επαναχρησιμοποίηση του νερού αυτού για πόση ή και για εμπλουτισμό των υπόγειων υδροφορέων δεν είναι ενθαρρυντική ακόμα, καθώς υπάρχουν σοβαροί ενδιασμοί. Την καλύτερη προοπτική, όπως είπαμε, παρουσιάζει η επαναχρησιμοποίηση για άρδευση, για περιαστικό πράσινο, αστικές μη πόσιμες χρήσεις, βιομηχανία, αναψυχή κλπ.
Theodore, can I just ask you to speak maybe a little bit slower? I try to safeguard the interpreters here that have some challenges to catch up. Thank you.
Ωραία. Το 2019 στην Ελλάδα υπήρχαν 240 εγκαταστάσεις επεξεργασίας λιμάτων, από τις οποίες μόνο 27 εφάρμοζαν επαναχρησιμοποίηση για άρδευση γεωργικών καλλιεργειών, βιομηχανική χρήση, άρδευση πρασίνου. Επομένως, τα περιθώρια ανάπτυξης και της επαναχρησιμοποίησης είναι θεωρητικά μεγάλα. Σε εθνικό επίπεδο, το θεσμικό πλαίσιο για την επαναχρησιμοποίηση ανακτημένου νερού διέπεται από την ΚΙΑ 145-116 του 2011, όπως αυτή έχει τροποποιηθεί και ισχύει σήμερα. Πρόσφατα, όπως υπόθηκε και από προηγούμενους ομιλητές, η Ευρωπαϊκή Ένωση εξέδωσε το κανονισμό 2020/741 σχετικά με τις ελάχιστες απαιτήσεις για την επαναχρησιμοποίηση των υδάτων για γεωργική χρήση και το 2022 δόθηκαν οι κατευθυντήριες γραμμές για τη στήριξη του κανονισμού αυτού. Απομένει μια ανάλογη προσαρμογή, δηλαδή του θεσμικού μας πλαισίου για την εφαρμογή του κανονισμού. Μεταξύ αυτών των νομοθετημάτων, κατά την άποψή μας και από όλες τις άλλες διευθύνσεις υδάτων της επικράτειας, Υπάρχει μια αναντιστοιχία, κυρίως γιατί παρουσιάζουν ουσιώδεις διαφορές, πέρα από το σχέδιο διαχείρισης κινδύνου που πρέπει να γίνει. Δηλαδή, εδώ βλέπουμε ότι για την άρδευση στο κανονισμό απουσιάζουν η παρακολούθηση για τα βαρέα μέταλλα, ενώ υπάρχουν μικρότερες μετρήσεις σε προηγούμενες ουσίες που μετρούσαμε. Επομένως, περιμένουμε από την κεντρική διοίκηση να δοθούν σαφείς οδηγίες εφαρμογής του. Σύμφωνα με το άρθρο 5 της ΚΙΑ, που είναι για την επαναχρησιμοποίηση, σχετικά με την τροφοδότηση ή τον εμπλουτισμό των υπόγειων υδροφορέων με ανακτημένα υγρά απόβλητα, παρουσιάζονται δύο κύριες μέθοδοι: εμπλουτισμός μέσω γεώτρησης και εμπλουτισμός μέσω διήθησης. Και οι δύο αυτές περιπτώσεις αφορούν αστικά και ορισμένα βιομηχανικά υγρά απόβλητα, δεν εφαρμόζονται σε υπόγεια υδατικά συστήματα που προορίζονται για ανθρώπινη κατανάλωση, ενώ για τα υπόλοιπα απαιτείται ειδική υδρογεολογική μελέτη, καθώς και να τηρούνται τα όρια των μικροβιολογικών και των συμβατικών παραμέτρων. Επιπλέον, ο κανονισμός θεσπίζει ελάχιστες απαιτήσεις για την ποιότητα και παρακολούθηση των υδάτων, οι οποίες, όπως είπαμε, είναι μικρότερες από την κοινή υπουργική απόφαση που εφαρμόζονται στην Ελλάδα, και διατάξεις για τη διαχείριση του κινδύνου, το οποίο ίσως είναι και η κεντρική ιδέα του κανονισμού, ώστε το ανακτημένο νερό να είναι ασφαλές για γεωργική χρήση. Για την επαναχρησιμοποίηση των επεξεργασμένων υγρών αποβλήτων για χρήσεις και δραστηριότητες απαιτείται άδεια. Αυτή την άδεια, εδώ στην Αττική, την εκδίδουμε εμείς. Η άδεια επαναχρησιμοποίησης παρέχεται στον χρήστη ή τον φορέα διαχείρισης από τον Γενικό Γραμματέα της Αποκεντρωμένης Διοίκησης μετά από εισήγηση της Διεύθυνσης Υδάτων. Για την έκδοση της άδειας χρειάζεται αίτηση συνοδευόμενη από μελέτη σχεδιασμού και εφαρμογής άρδευσης. Σε περίπτωση όμως που προβλέπεται η περιβαλλοντική αδειοδότηση, η άδεια επαναχρησιμοποίησης αντικαθίσταται από την απόφαση έγκρισης περιβαλλοντικών όρων ή τις πρότυπες περιβαλλοντικές δεσμεύσεις, για τις οποίες γνωμοδοτεί η διεύθυνσή μας. Άδεια προβλέπεται επίσης και στον κανονισμό της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης των 2020-741. Ένα μέτρο το οποίο εκτιμούμε ότι θα βοηθούσε ως διεύθυνση και θα θέλαμε να προχωρήσει είναι η δημιουργία ενός ηλεκτρονικού μητρώου επαναχρησιμοποίησης επεξεργασμένων υγρών αποβλήτων, όπου ο κάθε χρήστης θα μπορεί να καταχωρεί τα στοιχεία παρακολούθησης και των αναλύσεων ύδατος, και όχι με τον τρόπο που γίνεται τώρα μέσω αλληλογραφίας. Στην περιφέρεια γενικά της Αττικής, η άρδευση με επεξεργασμένα λίμματα την χάνει καλής εφαρμογής, ιδίως από φορείς δραστηριοτήτων του τουριστικού τομέα. Μεγάλα ξενοδοχεία που χρησιμοποιούν τα επεξεργασμένα λίμματα κυρίως για άρδευση πρασίνου. Μερικά στατιστικά στοιχεία. Στην Αττική, η υπηρεσία μας έχει γνωμοδοτήσει ή αδειοδοτήσει περίπου 80 επιχειρήσεις και φορείς με χαρακτηρισμό αποβλήτων αστικά ή και βιομηχανικά, και ο τρόπος επαναχρησιμοποίησης είναι ο εμπλουτισμός ή η άρδευση με περιορισμούς. Οι μισές από αυτές τις μονάδες χρησιμοποιούν τριτοβάθμια επεξεργασία και η πλειονότητά τους επεξεργάζεται, όπως είπαμε, αστικά απόβλητα. Τα υπόλοιπα είναι βιομηχανικά. Κάποια μέτρα που θα μπορούσαν να βελτιώσουν το πλαίσιο αδειοδότησης και παρακολούθησης, κατά την άποψή μου, είναι να εκδοθούν οι εγκύκλοι για την εφαρμογή του κανονισμού της Ευρωπαϊκής Ένωσης σε συνδυασμό με την κοινή υπουργική απόφαση που έχει εφαρμογή στην Ελλάδα, να επανακαθοριστούν οι αρμόδιες αρχές για τον έλεγχο της στήρησης των όρων και για την έκδοση της άδειας επαναχρησιμοποίησης, να προτυποποιηθούν τα σχέδια διαχείρισης κινδύνου και να δημιουργηθεί ψηφιακή πλατφόρμα μητρώου επαναχρησιμοποίησης επεξεργασμένων υγρών αποβλήτων. Να πω έτσι και δύο παραδείγματα, τα οποία το ένα αναφέρθηκε και ο κύριος Αχίνης, το Αδριάνιο υδρακογείο, το οποίο πρόκειται για μη πόσιμο νερό. Στην ουσία πρόκειται για, να το πούμε έτσι, για υδρομάστευση του φρεάτιου υδροφορέα κατά μήκος του Αδριάνιου υδρακογείου και με κάποιον σημαντικό ίσως αριθμό ομβρίων υδάτων. Η υπηρεσία μας από την πρώτη στιγμή, με το που έγινε η νήξη από την EYDAP ότι χρειάζεται η αδειοδότηση, προχώρησε αμέσως στην χρήση αυτή, στην αδειοδότηση αυτή. Αυτή τη στιγμή βρισκόμαστε σε μια διαδικασία να περιορίσουμε τα νέα έργα ανόρυξης νέων υδρολειψιών κατά μήκος και εκατέρωθεν 500 μέτρα από το κύριο άξονα του υδραγωγείου, και σε δεύτερο χρόνο να περιορίσουμε τις αντλήσεις από τις αφιστάμενες αδειοδοτημένες υδρολειψίες. Ένα δεύτερο έτσι παράδειγμα το οποίο τρέχει αυτή τη στιγμή πρόκειται για το γκρίζο νερό. Είναι ένα μικρό έργο βέβαια, πιλωτικό θα το έλεγα. Υπάρχει σε εξέλιξη για αδειοδότηση από σχολικό συγκρότημα ενός συστήματος ανακύκλωσης και επαναχρησιμοποίησης του γκρι νερού, προσάρτηση αστικού περιαστικού πρασίνου, αποκλειστικά από νηπτήρες των τουαλετών, με δευτεροβάθμια επεξεργασία. Ευχαριστώ.
Thank you very much, Theodore. We are a bit behind the schedule, but I would like still to open the floor if there are any questions. I would like this session to be interactive. So now is the opportunity. We don't have the opportunity to take many questions, but maybe one or two. And I see already that there is a question from Georgios on the first rank. So my colleague is coming in with the mic. Can I please ask you to stand up?
Yes.
Thank you.
So we just heard that in Greece, we work with a legislation that is existing about groundwater recharge only for irrigation purposes and not for potable. But before we have heard great examples of recharge for potable. So what is going on with legislation and why? What is going on with other countries? What kind of legislation do they have? And what is the prospect with regards with the European Union? And one other question. I heard, I was very interested to listen to the talk of Mr. Sapiano regarding how if non-potable, if reuse is exercised by utilities, then we are talking about zero impact utilities to the water environment. How can this be linked with financial incentives to the utilities for that? And this question about financial incentives is also to the JRC. This policy that is now being built regarding industrial use, will it have some, will there be any discussion about financial incentives? The main issue here is the sustainability of this exercise. So thank you.
Thank you, Jojo. So two questions in one. Maybe the first one from Manuel on aquifer recharge. I know that you are part of the expert group of the European Commission on aquifer recharge. I don't know if you feel comfortable speaking about regulation in other countries, but I'm sure you can say a few words about regulation in Malta regarding aquifer recharge for potable use.
Yes, so let's say up to now, considering Malta, we have one main aquifer which is used for drinking water purposes. We're looking at recharge with reuse more in the minor aquifers, which are isolated. And we're doing this because our reuse program is starting and we need certainty about the maintenance of the quality parameters before actually making the next step and starting to consider the impact on the main aquifer system. So it can be done, but as always, when we talk about drinking water, there's a certain element of, I would say, trying to avert risk, and we're doing this process starting by one aspect to the other, and we're actually testing managed aquifer recharge in places where there's the least risk to drinking water.
Thank you. And then I'm calling on Roberta online regarding the second question, which was linked to financial incentives. Can we have Roberta? Yes, Roberta, are you here?
Yes, I mean, we are not working as a JRC about exploring financial incentive. That was a potential. We had the study study here at JRC on the one study that was done on potential of reusing water in the European Union that actually calculated those 6 billion, taking into account the cost that was needed to support this. However, I'm not aware of any specific instrument regarding the water reuse regulation, but in the Industrial Emission Directive is mentioned that incentives are one of the instruments that should be provided to promote water efficiency efficiency that will also include water use. In any case, I will look into that. I don't have a specific answer for now, but I could follow up if you will contact me.
And Manuel wanted to react, so please go ahead.
Okay, I think Roberta is correct, because this is much more, let's say, a member state competence aspect. In fact, we are currently reviewing and reformulating our regulatory framework for the private use of groundwater, or the use of groundwater. And in this context of this reform at a national level, we're looking at, first of all, introducing in parallel with costs, introducing the concept of benefits. And we're undertaking a study to try to quantify benefits. And there's two levels of applications. First of all, we have put in on our water utility the obligation to reuse, and we're looking at the benefits which reuse bring about, because that will also have an impact on the environmental and resource costs for the utility. That's one thing. But we've also, in the reform, have also proposed of taking this also to the private sector, because wherever the private sector, for example, can make CSR initiatives related to the maintenance, to the protection of the water sector, there would be the possibilities of benefiting from lower tariffs for the use of natural water resources, because of the contribution which the sector is making, which the particular private sector is making. And therefore, we're trying to develop this tool of using economic instruments to support efficiency, but also to support the recovery of groundwater resources. If there's interest, what we can do, this is something which has started, but we can get in contact and we can also share information, which is something which definitely is up for discussions, and also in our case is up for optimization.
Thank you. So it's not only about cost, it's also about benefits. We heard you. I can take maybe one final question. If there is anyone in the audience or online like to take this opportunity. I see no hands. Excellent. So I think we can close this session. Thank you very much for four speakers for joining us here on stage, and Roberta for joining online. It was a pleasure to have you here on set. And to conclude this this very exciting seminar, I would like to invite now the chair of the board of directors of EYDAP, Mr. George Sturgeon.
Thank you, Jean-Yves. Dear colleagues, distinguished speakers, as we conclude this insightful seminar, I'm honored to share some final thoughts on behalf of Athens Water Supply and Sewerage Company. Today's discussions, I think that have underscored the urgent need to adopt holistic strategies to address the dual challenges of climate change and water scarcity. All the strategies we are talking about have a common goal, which is to build resilient cities, sustainable communities, and of course, green and urban landscapes. But how will we make it happen? A very recent development in this direction is the establishment of the Regulatory Authority for Waste, Energy and Water here in Greece, which from now on supervises water services and urban waste management along with the energy sector. In other words, the establishment of such an authority provides a helicopter view together with the relevant tools to transform public policies into business decisions for the benefit of consumers, and marks a significant step towards creating a new holistic approach of water management. It is a good start, but this new approach must be adopted at all levels, from government and authorities to industries and society at large. It requires a paradigm shift in how we perceive and use water, recognizing it as a finite and invaluable resource. Education and awareness are keys to the transformation, helping every stakeholder understand its role in conserving and responsibly using water. At EYDAP, as Petros Varelidis told earlier on, we are actively involved in this process, proposing a suitable up-to-date and strengthened regulations. Attending meetings like the one today give us the opportunity to learn from others' local practices, to exchange ideas and work together in a holistic way. We have heard about innovative projects that pave the way forward, such as the Bateau project, the Tiber Blue project, the Blue Future Limburg project, and the Natalie project. And of course, the practices of Barcelona and Catalonia in general, and from Malta as well. And of course, we have heard the point of view of the legislators from the EU level, at national level, and of course, the local authorities, like the decentralized authority that we have heard earlier on. We have all agreed that using varying qualities of water for different purposes can indeed provide sustainable solutions, alleviate pressure on freshwater resources, and of course, confront future challenges. We had also the joy, as a DAP employee, to share with all of you our company's initiatives in East Attica with our new network of reclaimed water, innovative sewer mining pilot units, and the revitalization of hydrants, aqueduct, non-potable network. This is the first phase of an integrated plan for a suitable water reuse system in Attica, a complex and pioneer task requiring cross-sectoral collaboration with various stakeholders. Now is the time to upscale these best practices, learning from successful pilot projects across Europe. This seminar has demonstrated the importance of joining forces, exchanging knowledge, and sharing a common vision for a sustainable future. High-level commitment is of major importance to adopting this proven strategy on a larger scale, ensuring that every innovation is used to its fullest potential. In conclusion, our path forward requires unity, innovation, and a steadfast commitment to sustainability. Let us take the insights and lessons from this seminar and apply them with vigor and determination. Together, we can tap into the untapped potential of reclaimed and non-potable waters, creating a more resilient and sustainable water future for all. By concluding, I would like to thank the organizers, Bernard, and of course, our moderator, Jean-Yves, the distinguished speakers, all of you for your attention, and of course, the people behind the scenes, that they deserve a huge applause because they deliver this quality seminar today for all of us. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. And of course, on behalf of Aqua Publica Europea, thanks as well to EYDAP for welcoming us here in Athens. I was asked before we leave to share a few logistical information. So for those who want Aqua Publica Europea's members, but also all other participants, we are now going to visit a non-potable water network located in Hallandri. And there is a bus leaving in a few minutes to Hallandri, and that will bring us back to the city center of Athens. So if you are joining the visits and you take the bus, please make sure to take your luggage with you, because today we are not getting back here at the venue. Please also make sure to let your headsets, interpretation headsets on your chair, so that we don't forget them. And obviously, we thank every participant joining us on site and online for being with us. And for the members of Aqua Publica Europea, it is just the start of a series of 2-day activities. Thank you.